Tomorrow is a pretty big day for the Republic. Tomorrow, a former president of the United States is going to be arraigned in New York. And we'll find out what the charges are. I mean, so far, we think that it is, all around the idea that Donald Trump claimed legal fees on paperwork when he paid somebody off in court, Stormy Daniels. And apparently you can't do that, as Hillary Clinton found out, as she declared legal fees for the
dossier, right?
Yeah, Fusion GPS dossier. And so you had her get a nasty fine. You have Donald Trump possibly going to jail. But we don't know what the charges are. We hopefully will find out what they are after he has been arraigned. Not arraigned, but indicted, and he comes in and is fingerprinted, and they officially charge him. Now, it's my understanding that the judge may issue a gag order, which is insanity. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're saying that the media can pile on and say these things, but he's not allowed to say anything, and he's running for president of the United States? How is that even possible? They can just continue to slander him, and he can't defend himself.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I mean, we don't know that that's going to happen. That is what has been reported, though, today.
Right.
And if that does happen, it's a disgrace, because not only is he a free citizen that should be able to defend himself publicly, particularly in a situation like this. I mean, this is not it's not a major. It's a improper classification of campaign expenditures is what they're charging him with. Obviously, he denies a lot of this, but besides the fact that any normal citizen should not have this happen to him. I mean, it's a central part of the argument Donald Trump is making to be reelected, right? The central part of his argument is that I am being targeted by these forces in the government that you need me there to stop. It's like his entire argument to become president of the United States again.
I know.
And they want to take that out of his mouth. I mean,
it seems
certainly not America.
Absolutely impossible. We're actually repeating history. I mean, not exactly. But the progressives are. The Progressive Party put Eugene Debs. He was the founder of the International Socialists Party, founder, I think, of the communist movement here in America. He was a labor union guy, an organizer, and he was put into jail under Grover Cleveland because convicted of federal charges for defying a court injunction against the strike and served 6 months in prison. But then in 1920, he's running, and in 1918, he starts speaking out against World War I. And Woodrow Wilson charged him with the Sedition Act and put him in prison for 20 years, was it? Convicted, Sedition Act, sentenced to a 10-year prison term. So he was supposed to go to prison for 10 years, and it was only because Harding came in and Wilson didn't run for a third term that he was released. The Republican came in and said the Sedition Act is absolutely unconstitutional. They got rid of the Sedition Act, and they forgave him. But he ran for president from prison. And got 3.5%, which is more than Asa Hutchinson will get at being a free man, which is weird.
What do you think of the politics of this, Glenn, and how this plays out? I mean, the standard way of thinking seems to be that this is going to help Trump in the primary and then question marks in the general. What do you think of that analysis?
I think it makes America a more dangerous place. Because you're going to have tensions just escalate. The more, especially if they take away and give him a gag order. They also can charge him for saying things against the district attorney, which is insane to me. Where's your freedom of speech? What do you mean you're not going to say things against the district attorney? He's on television saying bad things about you. What are you talking about? So there may be a gag order coming. They may throw additional charges on because of what he has said publicly about the district attorney. I don't know, but I don't see this being a good thing.
Does this rally Republican voters in the primary?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Already has. So let me see. There's a new poll out that shows, and this poll was done by John McLaughlin. Now, this is Trump's pollster, but it shows full-fledged ballot test, 14 potential Republican candidates. President Trump leads with 51%. DeSantis is now at 21%. In January, President Trump led the field 43%. DeSantis was at 31%. In a matchup of just DeSantis and Trump, Trump skyrocketed over 60%, now 63% total. DeSantis had just 30%. And in the general election, margin of error 3.1, Trump found leading Biden 47 to 43%. So he's winning in all of them, and it looks like, except for the general, it looks like the indictment is swaying Republicans.
I mean, you're hearing, almost exclusively, I don't know, Asa Hutchinson might be the exception to this, but even the Republican candidates running against him are saying what a disgrace this is, including DeSantis, including pretty much everybody coming out and saying, look, this is wrong. The question, I think, is, politically, you get past this first stage, right? I mean, Trump comes into this is the overwhelming favorite. I know some of these polls look close, but he's a former president. He controls every news cycle. It would be, he would have to, in some ways, blow this to not win. I mean, DeSantis has never been proven on the stage, and I like DeSantis quite a bit, but he's never been in this situation before. We don't know what to expect out of a DeSantis run, assuming he does get in, which I'm sure he will. He's done a really good job in Florida, and I think there's all expectations that he'd do a good job on a national campaign, but we still haven't seen that. Trump has to be seen as the favorite. And then you see an issue where, again, the main conversation among Republicans and their politics right now is what's going on with Donald Trump. It seems to be the only thing we've talked about since 2015 is just this one person. And when you're that one person, you have a massive advantage here, don't you? Yeah,
you do. And here's the thing. This isn't the only investigation. You have the investigation of election interference in Georgia. You have the classified documents. You have January 6th, and you have the Stormy Daniels case. This is only one out of four, which is one of the most incredible things I have ever seen in American politics. Never before has this happened. Gerald Ford lost the re-election because, Gerald Ford sucked, but also because he pardoned Richard Nixon, and people thought that was wrong. I happen to agree that was wrong, but they did it for a reason. You didn't want to have a sitting president go through trial. I personally would have found that inspirational. I personally would have found a president going to trial for an actual crime inspirational. No one in our government is above the law. No one. You break the law, you go to jail. The problem is, and we see this now, you can be had with as many laws as we have. You can be had for anything. Look at how this guy has had every single, I will bet you, every single intelligence group, including the Five Eyes, looking for dirt on this guy. Maybe the only one that wasn't was Israel. Every other intelligence agency in the world was looking for dirt on this guy. And, who was it? Maxine Waters says, well, he earned this. He earned this. I'll tell you that right now. Did he? Did he? Who could withstand that kind of scrutiny? I've said to him myself, I got to tell you, Mr. President, I thought, because I lived in New York, I watched you build these buildings. And these buildings, remember, Stu, they would just go up. Trump buildings, they'd go up. Everything else would take forever, and Trump would just, and it would be done. And I said to him, you're a construction guy in New York where everything's bada bing, Hey, don't ask about Johnny. He might be at the bottom of the river today. And I said, if anything, I thought for sure there would have been some bribes or something going on in New York. I said, you are shockingly one of the cleanest guys. You have to be one of the cleanest guys because they've gone after everything and nothing. You get this? Something that's not really a crime?
What do you think about because there's a theory out there, and whether it's coordinated or not is a separate question. But the theory basically is that this Stormy Daniels case, being the weakest of the 4 or 5 cases that are out there,
right,
was intentionally put forth first. Now, of course, it is the oldest one too, so it could just be that simple. But the idea is that while they all want to go after Donald Trump, there weren't a lot of DAs that wanted to be the person who pulled the trigger on the first time a president had been charged. It was a big hurdle, a big, sort of wall there, and people didn't want to be the first one to go down that road and have to deal with all that. And now that this Stormy Daniels thing has gone forward, they're going to indict him, and they have indicted him on this, that it makes the other cases more likely to come forward because now they don't have to deal with that precedent-setting thing.
Well, they're gonna indict, I think, in Georgia, but again, it will be laughable. You remember, she was the foreman of the jury. And she was like, we got to get him on something. I just couldn't wait to get him on something. That's crazy. They're going to probably indict there. They cannot indict on the documents. How are they going to possibly indict?
That was just so weak.
Weaker than this one, though. Weaker than this one? They're both so weak that you would think there's no way. But if they indict him on this, which is a misdemeanor that is out of its, what do you call it? When time's out, statute of limitations. Yeah. It's outside of that. How are they even charging? If that's indeed what they're charging with.
Right. It really is incredible. And I think, you're going to see, you can go back and forth on all these cases. I'd love to get your take maybe a little bit in a little while of which one you think are the most likely to come through. What is Trump going to have to deal with here going forward?
Okay, we'll do that in a second. So what do you think the odds are that he is just charged with this, misdemeanor that he said the Stormy Daniels payoff was a legal charge?
Well, I don't think it can be a misdemeanor. I think it has to be elevated to a felony.
Oh, no, I know that. But, it is a misdemeanor. That's the way it was under Hillary Clinton when she was charged with it.
Yeah.
It was a misdemeanor. So this
should be
somehow or another made into a federal crime by this local DA. I don't know how he does that, but
yeah, that is, I think, going to be certainly a heavy part of what we see in the actual papers when we get to see them. It's hard to know. Like maybe you hold out a little bit of judgment because we haven't seen it yet. We don't know. Maybe there's some evidence we don't know about. Maybe there's some other crime committed that we don't know about. I just have no belief that this guy, Alvin Bragg, is actually doing this on the up and up. He's just targeting Donald Trump, and so I expect it to be the same nonsense we've been talking about for a while.
And it's such a problem because if, you have no chance of justice if the justice system is corrupted. If he committed, we said this, during the impeachment trial, when we first started doing our homework, If Donald Trump had done something wrong, if he were in bed with the Russians, we would have absolutely exposed it. It's important.
Yeah.
But if you don't have fair people that are looking at the facts and really actually calling balls and strikes, the game is meaningless. You don't have a fair umpire, the game is meaningless. And that's all this is turning into, a game. And so we root for our teams. It's got to stop. We have to have real umpires that call balls and strikes.